Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum in Oakland, California. CBS Sports presents the Minnesota Vikings versus the Oakland Raiders. Hi, everybody. Ben Scully along with Alex Hawkins. Welcome to Oakland. It's kind of overcast. There's a 40% chance of showers, and already one decision has been made. New England defeated Miami. Consequently, Oakland, by winning today, can be the wild card. So there's a lot on the line. But the Minnesota Vikings come in, and a lot of people are doing a lot of guessing about the Vikings.
Well, they've got to, because Bob Lee has been their starter since Fran Tarkenton was injured. Last week, Tommy Kramer came in with 11 minutes to go in the ball game, threw 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions, has looked fantastic for the Vikings.
There's a number on Tommy Kramer that he has been quarterback while the Vikes had 9 possessions of the ball, and they have scored in 6 of those 9 sequences. So evidently, number 9 has the touch of a winner.
Yes, sir, and the veterans have accepted him from the first day of training camp. He hadn't acted like a rookie at all. He just came in and made his presence felt.
One problem that Kramer and the other Vikings will have to get over, and that will be the residual effects of the Super Bowl. After all, Oakland kind of pushed them all over the lot the last time they met, and they've got to forget that and start anew.
Well, you got to feel like they're a very proud veteran team. They realize that they were embarrassed in the Super Bowl, and it's got to have some kind of psychological effect. But to talk to the Vikings, you wouldn't know it because they disregard it. They say, we have to win next week for sure.
Well, right now down on the field, we can take a look at the captains of the respective squads, and in a moment we'll get the ball game underway. Again, we'll repeat, the Raiders can clinch the wild card by winning today, or since New England won, the Raiders could afford to lose to the Vikings today and then beat Kansas City to get the wild card.
Call it in the air, please. Call it. Heads. It is a tail.
Just like this.
Good game, gentlemen.
So Oakland losing the toss of the coin. Bud Grant, implacable as usual. You can't tell very much about him. And on the other side, a much more explosive John Madden, and summing his ball club up. And all around the ballpark, the flags proclaiming the fact that Oakland, the world champions. The officials for today's game: Freddie Wyatt, the referee, the umpire, Tom Hensley, and then you have Leo Miles, Don Orr, Jimmy Rosser, and Fred Swearingen. The weather, as the breeze picks up and ripples the World Championship banner. Temperature 58 degrees, humidity 75%, wind 12 miles per hour out of the south-southeast, a 40% chance of showers, and for that matter, it is raining right now in Santa Rosa, about 25 miles away.
I need so much rain out here on the coast. I know everybody's happy to see rain.
That's right. Oakland waiting to see about Fred Wyatt teeing up the ball and getting this underway. Now Willie Brown comes out to talk. So for the moment, Manfred Moore is deep for Minnesota. He's a boy who started the year with Oakland and now finds himself with the Vikings. For the Vikes, of course, they have a big ball game. There is Sammy White. Sammy White was at the other end of that dramatic 69-yard pass from Tommy Kramer that pulled out the ball game against San Francisco. But there is still some indecision down on the field, and we'll wait and see. Jim Marshall comes out along with Mick Tingelhoff. It gives us a moment to tell you about some of the veteran Vikes. For instance, Tingelhoff, number 53, will be in his 223rd consecutive game. George Blanda played in 224, but the record holder will be defensive end Jim Marshall, who will be in his 249th consecutive game. Apparently, in the toss of the coin, someone got mixed up down on the field, and Oakland evidently had won the toss, and they're going to receive. So there was a considerable amount of confusion. Minnesota thought they had won, and they were receiving. Oakland was all set to kick off, and then Bankston was the one who let out the holler, no. Deep right now will be Carl Garrett, number 31, and with him you begin. There's Garrett. Oakland banged up a little bit. They have deactivated Rich Jennings, and they brought in Jimmy Warren as a 7th cornerback. So we finally got it squared away as they tee the ball up on the 35, and here we go. Fred Cox ready to kick off for Minnesota. does not get much of a kick, and Carl Garrett will take it inside his 10 to the 25. A necktie brings him down at the 30-yard line, where Oakland will put it in possession, 1st and 10 from their own 30. Here are the boys who figured to be at the other end of Kenny Stabler passes: Cliff Branch, Fred Biletnikoff, and the great tight end Dave Casper.
You don't want many better than that group.
Kenny Stabler with his 2 great running backs who also block exceptionally well for each other, Clarence Davis and Mark Van Egan. And up front, Shell, Upshaw, Dalby, Beeler, and Lawrence playing for John Vella. Cliff Branch is wide left. Biletnikoff is wide right. 1st and 10 from the 30. Mark Van Egan on a flag on the play just as he hit the line of scrimmage. Let's take a look at Minnesota now. They will be asked to do what they could not do in January, hold Oakland. It'll be Eller, Sutherland, Page, and Marshall up front. And Page and Marshall took a terrible licking the last time they met. The linebackers, Blair, Seaman, and McNeil. Emphasis on Seaman. He'll have to read Kenny Stabler's mind. At the corners, Nate Wright and Bobby Bryant, Jeff Wright and Paul Krause at the safeties. And the first penalty of the day goes against center Dave Dalby, guilty of holding. Now that puts the ball back on the Oakland 20-yard line. Bob Lee, who had to wait his turn behind Tarkenton, now finds himself waiting his turn behind Tommy Kramer, perhaps. Van Egan unable to get anywhere as he banged into his own left guard, Gene Upshaw.
Wasting no time in going to the left side. They had so much success with it last year in the Super Bowl. Gene Upshaw and Art Shell, just 2 great blockers. They outweigh Jim Marshall and Alan Page something like 40 or 45 pounds per man.
Fred McNeil did a very good job of coming up and actually pushing Upshaw back into the ball carrier. And McNeil is the only man to ever block a Ray Guy punt. You might remember he did that in the Super Bowl. So Kenny for the first pass of the day, and he goes to his backfield man, Mark Van Egan, and he's not quite back to the 30-yard line, so he still has a good 10 yards to go. Matt Blair making the hit.
Kenny Stabler, almost impossible to determine what he's going to do. Puts no type on himself whatsoever. He's in a situation, he never lets himself get in these long yardage situations. He'll take what you give him, particularly this year. He's going more and more to the short stuff, which he throws so well. Van Egan having just a sensational year.
Well, they started on the 30. The holding penalty pushed them back to the 20. Now they have a 3rd and 11. Stabler, a change of pace. Whoa! Here's Jack Branch. He beat Bobby Bryant. Goes to the outside, and Krause cuts him down to the 42-yard line.
You see Kenny Stabler pumping the football, trying to throw those defensive free safeties out of position. Cliff Branch, all the speed in the world. He's only been averaging about 15 yards a catch. That's low for him. But they've been running the ball a little more often. You see him beating Bobby Bryant that time. This guy turns it up, it's all over. Biletnikoff helping out there a little bit, getting in the way.
So undaunted, Stabler has not had much of a passing number in the last 3 games. He's only completed 41% of his passes, but he comes out now throwing a big completion to Branch. 1st and 10 from the 41 of Minnesota. Here goes Davis. Clarence Davis is a remarkable ball carrier, especially when you think that in all of his carries this year, plus the fact he has caught 15 passes, he has not fumbled. That would be 169 carries.
In addition to that, he is an excellent blocker. Gene Upshaw told me that he was probably the finest blocker in the ball club, regardless of position. He's having his best year. He's gained over 700 yards this year. That's high for him.
So it'll be 2nd and 6 from the 37 as Stabler has his ball club on the move. Biletnikoff is right and Branch left. A draw to Clarence Davis, and he's stymied at the 35-yard line. Carl Eller, number 81, and of course that's a familiar name. Number 1 draft choice way back in 1964. There's the big guy, having played 14 years. He has 11 sacks thus far. This telecast presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Oakland Raiders and the National Football League is prohibited. 3rd and 4 for Stabler. And he goes to Van Egan with Davis out in front blocking for him. And he is very close to the first down, just about at the 30-yard line. So we'll see. Yep, he picked it up.
Once again, let's look at that left side of that Oakland offensive line. That's where the game's going to be played. Oakland, a left-handed team in the first place, chiefly because they got a left-handed quarterback and they got great personnel on that side. But they outweigh the Minnesota Vikings on that side, something like, as I said, about 40 pounds per man. That's where they'll be going all afternoon until they don't find any success there. They haven't had any so far.
The one big difference, as pointed out before the game, Red McNeil is on that right side instead of the veteran Wally Hilgenberg, who was there during the Super Bowl. Van Egan barreling his way to the 25-yard line. Mark Van Egan had picked up 1,090 yards rushing, so he needs 10 yards today to pass Marv Hubbard, who had 1,100, and right now he has 12 yards to break Hubbard's record. That was set in '72 in the Oakland record book.
Of course, everybody knows he went to school at Colgate, but have you ever seen so many Ivy Leaguers in the game? After watching 2 games yesterday, it seemed like the whole league is composed of people from the Ivy League.
2nd and 5. The Raiders, remember, started on their own 30. And here goes Garrett. Inside Beeler. Good block. Flag go as he goes out. There's a flag down on the field inside the 25-yard line. A very good block that time by George Beeler. Opened up, but let's wait on the call.
They showed they can run to the right side as well. Henry Lawrence is the right tackle, number 70. John Vella, the regular, has been hampered with injuries most of the year. There you see Casper, one of the better tight ends in football. A good block by Beeler, as you said. Carl Garrett turned it up. He's been a steal, been well traveled. He started with New England, went to Chicago, and then with the Jets before he came here.
And what that was a large yellow piece of paper that blew onto the field. It was not a flag. It is 1st and 10 now from the 16. Here goes Mark Van Egan to the 10-yard line. So he picked up a quick 6.
You know, the Raiders have been known through the years because of Kenny Stabler and all the good passers they've had out here as being a throwing team. But this year they've gone more and more to the run.
For the Minnesota Vikings defensively, they are number 6 in total defense. They have been asked now to hold an Oakland ball club that comes here breathing fire. 2nd and 4 from the 10. Remember, an Oakland victory today, and they have won the wild card since New England beat Miami. There goes Davis. Inside the 5 for a first down. It'll be 1st and goal, Oakland.
Clarence Davis, number 28. Let's watch how these 2 running backs block for each other. Van Egan sealing his man inside. Put McNeil to the inside. Davis finding the running room. I think it's interesting to point out that although they are, Minnesota is 6th in total defense, they're 13th against the run then. Everybody's having success running against them. And you can see how emotional Bud Grant is, as usual.
Bankston now a tight end on the right side with Casper on the left. And the running backs, Van Egan and Davis. It's Van Egan driving down to about the 2-yard line by the time they unpile. So it'll be 2nd and goal from the 2. Matt Blair, number 59, figures to be very busy all day making tackles.
He's a big play player. He's blocked a lot of kicks for him last year and again this year. He's got 4 blocked kicks this year so far.
Last year, among other things, he had 5 recovered fumbles, 2 interceptions, 2 blocked conversions, and a blocked field goal. So here's something. Matt Blair, when you see the ball, you'll see 59 right around it. So 2nd and goal from the 2. Bankston now on a wing on the left side. Van Egan goes through. Touchdown. Fumbled, I believe, after the whistle. However, the play was dead. And Mark Van Egan bangs it over, his 7th touchdown rushing of the year.
So that first series. Let's take a look at it now. Having a sensational year, was the first runner to break 1,000 yards or better in the AFC. Over that left side, and it's predictable. Art Shell and Gene Upsall, when you got people like that, you got to run behind them.
So now coming in and asked to kick it for the extra point is Errol Mann. Timeout for the moment. You asked an interesting question, Hawk, about why they picked Errol Mann up.
I thought it was interesting because Al Davis has a reason for everything he does. Number one, they have a grass turf here, and he had one in Detroit where he kicked there for so many years. He'd been used to kicking in the Chicago Stadium. They had a big game coming up. We'll talk more about Al Davis. He's very interesting.
Errol Mann, 10-year veteran, sends it through. And so the Oakland Raiders have asserted themselves. 9 minutes and 5 seconds to go in the first quarter. And the Oakland Raiders 7, the Minnesota Vikings nothing. That drive, you remember, started on the opening kickoff. The only confusion was who won the toss. Oakland started on their own 30. A holding penalty set them back to the 20, and then Stabler just moved his ball club downfield relentlessly until Mark Egan punched it over. So Egan, his 7th touchdown rushing, and the Minnesota Vikings are hurting immediately by a ball club that just chewed them up in the Super Bowl 32-14. And the Vikes will have to rally themselves immediately, or Oakland will liable to dump them in the bay. And John Madden and Kenny Stabler already off on a high note.
John Madden, he's very sensitive about the fact his TV appearance. I talked to him the other day about it. He said, "You're not going to be one of those guys that makes reference to what I look like on television." And I said, "Not me." He looks like he runs a Texaco station right outside of Arkadelphia, Arkansas.
By the way, so with 9 minutes and 5 seconds left to go in the first quarter, Ray Guy will kick off for Oakland. Standing deep for Minnesota as Guy is ready, there is Manfred Moore, who was on the Oakland Ball Club last year, having been picked up from Tampa Bay, and he's now with Minnesota.
Started out in San Francisco. Good returner out there.
Manfred Moore from the 5-yard line calmly picks it up at the 10. And is upended shy of the 15-yard line, and he took a pretty good lick. Terry Robisky down there on the tackle. The NFL on CBS next Saturday. The Los Angeles Rams and the Washington Redskins at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A lot of you folks, I'm sure, so Washington pull that one out and hold on to defeat the Cardinals yesterday. 12:30 Eastern Saturday. The Rams and Washington. Now Minnesota trying to regroup, 1st and 10 from their own 14, and young Tommy Kramer is the quarterback. McClanahan and Foreman, and it's Chuck Foreman. Here are the men who figure to handle the ball. Ahmad Rashad, Sammy White, and Stu Voigt, the tight end for Minnesota. The backfield with the quarterback Tommy Kramer, Brent McClanahan, and Chuck Foreman. Up front, Riley, Goodrum, Tingelhoff, White, and Gary. 2nd and 8 from the 16-yard line. 7-0 Oakland in the early going. Sammy White is wide left, and Tucker, a tight end on the wing, outside Voigt to the right. The whistle is blown, and it is recovered by Otis Sistrunk of Oakland.
Otis been troubled a lot this year, as many of the Raiders have with injuries. He's about 80% well, but still playing today. Vikings very sluggish, it looks like, today. There's a handoff there, and, well, it's just a poor exchange. He never got control of the thing. Can't tell whose fault it was on that. New quarterback, that'll often happen.
So Minnesota immediately gives the ball up to Oakland. The Raiders not only leading 7-0, in perfect position now to put a big crack in this ball game, and we're not even halfway through the first quarter. 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 16. Van Egan and Davis. Bletnikoff is right, Branch left. And there goes Van Egan barreling to the 10.
All right, we've been telling you about what a good blocker Clarence Davis was, number 28. A small boy, but look at him. Let's watch and see how he comes out this time. Right on his back, wouldn't it? He's going to follow his friends. Number 70 coming into the picture, Jim Marshall, that you've seen for so many years. Gracious, he's been playing forever, hasn't he?
Forever translates to 18 years for Jim Marshall. It is 2nd and 4 from the 10-yard line. Branch in a slot right. Van Egan tripped off by Bobby Bryant and goes down at the 11-yard line. Good play by veteran Bobby Bryant, who's had 9 years. Bud Grant coming in here trying to forget the Super Bowl, and as he said, this is not one of those things that we're going to come back and try and avenge a Super Bowl. John Madden has his ball club snarling already. They win today, they've got a lock on the wild card.
And both great coaches, but contrasting styles, nowhere near similar in personalities, but both winners.
3rd and 5 from the 11-yard line. Stabler going to left-hand it up. High down in the corner to Branch. All alone. Cliff Branch made it look easy. That's his 5th touchdown pass of the year.
Well, sir, the Vikings have had trouble rushing the passer all season. You cannot give Kenny Stabler, as the Los Angeles Rams found last week, you put a rush on him, he might throw some interceptions. He's thrown 20 this year, but you give him time to sit back like that, he will pick you to pieces because he is one heck of a thrower, as everybody knows. Cliff Branch, well, you've seen him play too often for me to tell you anything about him.
The closest man to Cliff Branch was Jeff Wright. He was about 5 minutes away by phone. So Errol Mann will now try to make it 14-0 Oakland. And he does. So the Oakland Raiders, capitalizing on a Brent McClanahan fumble, cash in on a touchdown pass to Branch and lead 14-0. So Ray Guy picking it up for the world champion Oakland Raiders, who are acting every inch the role, certainly against Minnesota, the team that they clobbered in January. Well, next Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, CBS Sports Spectacular presents highlights of the WBC World Welterweight Championship fight, Carlos Palomino and Jose Palacios. Then you'll see the National Hot Rod Association World Championship, Shirley Muldowney, Don Garlett. Finals of the United States Professional Arm Wrestling Championship, and the final event of the World's Strongest Men competition featuring the tug of war. All coming up next Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern on the CBS Sports Spectacular. Manfred Moore waiting for the kick. It's down to the 5-yard line, and he'll try and move it to the 10, and down he goes on a wave of black shirts. And so Minnesota first lost the toss, gave up a touchdown, fumbled the ball away for another touchdown, and now they're in trouble as they start. And there was the Oakland drive, 3 plays, 15 yards, recovering the McClanahan fumble, the play made by Otis Sistrunk. 1 minute and 15 seconds, and it is 14-0 Oakland. And how about this? Historic. Tampa Bay will finally win one. They were 0-26. They'll win it 26-0.
And Hank Stram's got to be committing suicide about that.
Tommy Kramer to the left side, overthrows Ahmad Rashad.
There he is, Ahmad Rashad. He's been traveled around a little bit. Started with St. Louis, ended up last year starting the season with Seattle, and was traded over for a number 4 draft choice. And that's a pretty cheap price for a guy with his ability. Last week had probably his best week with 7 catches for over 100 yards. His most productive Sunday of the season.
Well, Tommy Kramer had to come in here last week behind by 3 touchdowns. He must wonder if Minnesota ever gets in front.
He's waiting for it. He gets behind 24-0 before he cranks it up.
2nd and 10 from the 12. Fumble recovered by Minnesota. And falling on the ball is Goody, as they call him, Charles Goodrum. So Minnesota has fumbled twice and given up the ball once, and they were saved that time by Goodrum.
Well,
Take a look at the boys up front for the Raiders. John Matusak, Dave Rowe, and Otis Sistrunk. And that 3-4 defense, remember. Rice, Johnson, Hall, and Hendricks. Fume is now in there as Kramer sets up. Flag on the play. So he'll throw it anyway to Sammy White, but it's not going to count. Well, you heard the number 78. We'll see if Steve Riley is guilty of an infraction. That's what it would be.
Nothing going right for Minnesota. Oakland gave you a little 4-man front that time. Gave you a new look there. He studied the films all week, and they're predominantly a 3-man front. And being a rookie, I imagine that being set for a 3-man front and then seeing a 4-1 could confuse you a little bit.
I should say.
False start, number 78, offense.
So Steve Riley, out of USC, guilty of the infraction. It is 3rd and 17 from their own 5 for Minnesota. Tommy Kramer, 22, going on 40 in this ball game right now. Tommy dumping it off to Foreman and threw it away instead. So Chuck Foreman, hoping to get one on the outside where he had some room, needs 92 yards rushing to get 1,000 for the 3rd consecutive year. And the Vikings will now have to root it out of there, and Neil Clabo will be asked to punt from his end zone. Neil Colsey will be standing on the 45-yard line of Minnesota.
And I hate to be on the negative side, but that's one thing the Vikings have not done well this year is cover punts. They're giving up about 10 yards per return.
Clabo got it out of there. Colsey on the 45. To the 35, knocked down by Mark Keller. So Keller, number 35. Robert Miller making the hit. And so we have 5 minutes and 57 left in the first quarter. Oakland 14, Minnesota nothing. Neil Claybo rooting out a 40-yard punt. There was a 10-yard return by Neil Colsey, and Oakland will put it in play 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 35-yard line. 5:57 to go in the first quarter, and Oakland leading 14-0.
They started out the season, the Oakland Raiders, as one of the better teams in football. In fact, it looked like they were just going to overwhelm everybody in the divisions. And then the injuries hit and it kept getting worse. They're trying to put it together now, and they're a veteran team and a proud team, and I think they will.
Branch goes left, Biletnikoff right. Second man is Davis. And a flag on the play as Davis gets to the 30-yard line. Sutherland and Beeler really going head-to-head on a little blocking there in the middle of the line. We'll wait on the call, evidently against Oakland.
And I think it could have been some holding on Beeler, too.
Holding, number 64, offense.
That's what it was. George Beeler, guilty of the infraction. He went to school up here at Stanford. Pretty big rivalry back east. Philadelphia nosed out the Giants 17-14. 1st and 20 from the 45, and Stabler leading 14-0. Jumps to Van Egan, and Van Egan gets across the 40-yard line. Jeff Wright making the tackle.
Kenny Stabler mixing it up. Sits back in that pocket. You chase him out of there, he's got problems because of those bad knees. But no, he's just mixing it up, the pass and the screens and the runs, the draws, rather. That's the way he does, though. He's a hard man to figure out. One thing, though, he's got the guts of a U.S. Army mule. He'll do anything.
Well, the Chicago Bears defeat Green Bay 21-10. They play the Giants next week. Minnesota will be playing Detroit next week. Here comes Clarence Davis. There goes Clarence Davis. Hit by Fred McNeil and Jim Marshall as he crossed the 40-yard line. By the way, we could give you a footnote on that Bear game. Walter Payton carried 32 times for 163 yards and 2 touchdowns. Payton has now rushed for 1,805 yards this year.
He is something else. We'll get to see him next week.
The two coaches, as usual, John Madden very visible, Bud Grant low-key and watching. 3rd and 15 from the 39. Whoops! Stabler slipped, still gets it out towards Casper, and it's broken up by the middleman, Jeff Seaman.
Stabler lost his footing down there. Excellent turf, though. I think it would add years to a receiver's playing career, being able to play on that regular grass, nice and soft. Watch him as he slips right here. Puts his little right hand down and gets back up. Great play there by Seaman.
Jeff Seaman, of course, is trying to read Stabler's mind. That'll be an interesting selection all day long for Jeff.
Let's put it this way. Stabler's hero is Bobby Lane. How are you going to figure his mind?
But there's the greatest kicker in the game. Ray Guy, after a very high pass from center, he will kick it out.
You believe him?
Out at the 3-yard line. Is he the greatest? Oh, what a kicker. Ray Guy gets the punt of the day as he narrows it to the 3. A 36-yard punt after the snap from center almost went over his head.
And who else besides Al Davis would draft a guy number 1, a punter number 1? Never in the history of the National Football League has it been done until Ray Guy.
Welcome back to the Oakland Coliseum. Vin Scully along with Alex Hawkins. And the Raiders very much at home, leading 14-0. And Minnesota, fresh from having punted out of the end zone, now has the ball 1st and 10 from their own 3 as John Madden, last-minute discussion with Kenny Stabler. Tommy Kramer with McClanahan and Foreman. Fumbles and falls on the ball. It's loose. Picked up by Willie Hall for a touchdown, Oakland. Would you believe that?
Oh, buddy. Get the fork. I'm done. That's
Willie
the
Hall.
3rd bad exchange. And this, well, they've only had 3 possessions, and all 3 of them have ended in bad exchanges there. Willie Hall, a free agent from Southern Cal.
He recovered a fumble in the first quarter of the Super Bowl against Minnesota. Kramer, you see, dropped it, fell on it, it squirted up in the air, and Hall just picked it up and walked in. And they're going to push the Vikings into the bay. It is 20-0 Oakland. We have 4 minutes and 22 seconds left in the first quarter.
Get out of town. Whoa.
If it were a fight, they'd have stopped it on eye cuts by now. It's up and good. The Oakland Raiders are leading the Minnesota Vikings 21-0. Take another look at that loose ball. He lost it right away.
Yes, sir. Hyde got out from under him because he falls on it right there. Good
And watch it
position,
pop
and Hyde
up.
squirted up. I have no earthly idea.
Went up like wet soap.
Someone said the ball takes funny bounces, but that's been so many years ago.
Who said that? Francis Scott Key. So you had Van Egan punch one over. You had Cliff Branch capture a touchdown pass, and now you have Willie Hall pick off the fumble, and Bud Grant not ready to talk to anybody right now.
I like their Minnesota's approach to it, though. They're very realistic with their approach to this game. They said, we've always got next week. That's who we've got to beat anyhow, and a lot can happen between now and then.
Oakland, of course, sky high. They knew coming out onto the field that New England had beaten Miami. They knew that if they won today, they would have clinched the wild card. And they sure would appear to have a first quarter lock on it. And once again, Manfred Moore, who played rugby this past winter in Sydney, Australia. He keeps busy.
Where'd you get that? Where did you get that?
It's true. He did. The Ray guy kicks it to the left side. Robert Miller to the 30. Out of bounds before he can get up to the 35. There's a McClanahan on the Oakland Ball Club, and it was that McClanahan, Randy McClanahan, who made the tackle. Well, here's the bowl picture on CBS. First of all, on Sunday, Christmas Day. Penn State versus Arizona State. Penn led by Chuck Fusina. Arizona State, after that ball game on Christmas, two more big bowl games. Sun Bowl, Stanford and LSU on December 31st, and in the Cotton Bowl, undefeated Texas and Notre Dame on Monday, January 2nd. Chuck Foreman to the 35. Fumbled. Picked up and dragged down by Floyd Rice. And Oakland has recovered it again.
And that's just not right. That's just not right to get off to a start like that. Poor Tommy Kramer, what a sensational week he had last week. Chuck Foreman, who does carry the ball a little loosely, got a good hit that time, and up it comes.
You know, there was a stat before the game that summed up Minnesota. They were minus 16 in turnovers, and here they've turned the ball over 4 times in the first quarter to Floyd Rice, who has to be Puff Rice right about now after picking that one up. 4 minutes to go in the first. And Clarence Davis looking for a place to go. Fred McNeil takes him out of bounds. Boy, what a rout. 21-0 Oakland. Bud Grant was saying last week that when he was behind 24-0 to San Francisco, that was the furthest back he had ever been. Well,
look at it this week. And this drive's not over yet.
So Oakland has the ball on the 24-yard line of Minnesota, 2nd and 9. Biletnikoff wide left and Branch in a slot left. Davis now on a wing. So the setback is Van Egan. Pulling is Henry Lawrence, and he runs up Lawrence's back across the 20-yard line. Big number 70, Henry Lawrence. He's quite a player, even though there are not too many people familiar with him.
Yes, sir. Henry was a #1 draft choice in his 4th year from Florida A&M. He replaced John Bella when Bella was hurt earlier in the year, and Bella has been unable to move him out of the lineup since. Van Egan, you talk about a guy that does not fumble. How many times he carried the ball this year?
Well, coming into the ball game, he had 280 some odd carries
without a fumble.
Right. 3rd and 4 from the 19-yard line. Branch in a slot right inside Biletnikoff. Stabler getting away from the rush. Flag on the play, and the pass is caught by Biletnikoff, but let's see. Paul Krause brought him down. Stabler slings the flag down in disgust, so you know it's going to be against Oakland.
Let's see if we can pick it up or where the holding was. I do not see anything so far. Oh, it could be right there. Kenny Stabler just throws darts. How many balls has Biletnikoff caught in his career? A great many of them.
Holding, number 63, offense.
So the holding against veteran Gene Upshaw. So that slows down Oakland for the moment. Detroit, Baltimore. a possible upset there indeed, with Detroit leading Baltimore 6-3 in what sounds like a pitcher's battle in football. 3rd and 14 from the 29. Stabler, no good. It was intended for his wide receiver, Mike Ciani, and Jeff Wright was the closest man to the ball. Almost picked it off. Stabler annoyed at himself, or perhaps even Ciani's route. I'm not sure.
He turned out on the pattern and then turned it back up the field like a sideline and go, and I don't know which one was the fault on that. Ciani has been in trouble with some injuries, hadn't worked out all this week. Yesterday,
Ray Guy, whose last punt went out at the 3-yard line after a high snap from center, you'll remember, will try and push Minnesota back into the corner again. Bob Grimm is over there in the corner. Grimm will watch the ball hit, and this time it rolls into the end zone. And for the first time, Minnesota will have a little bit of room on their own 20. They have really been penned in. And there's the guy who did it last time, Ray Guy, a 5-year man out of southern Mississippi. His longest punt, 74 yards this year. So Tommy Kramer will take over 1st and 10 on his own 20. Here's the NFL on CBS next Sunday. The regional game, Chicago, New York, New Orleans, Atlanta, St. Louis, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Green Bay. Foreman, the setback with McClanahan on a wing. Here comes Foreman. Got a good block from Ron Yeri, but there weren't enough people to throw blocks, and Willie Hall has him. Though Foreman is wrapped up. Be interesting, as Willie Hall, remember, picked off that fumble and scored a touchdown. Bud Grant, somehow or other, trying to get his Minnesota ball club pumped up. They are flat as a pancake right now as Ahmad Rashad comes in and Bob Tucker goes out. 2nd and 6 from the 24. It is 21-0 Oakland. 2 minutes and 26 seconds left in the first quarter. Kramer looking to Foreman, and he gets popped by Floyd Rice immediately.
You know, when you mention all, as we look at this again, we see Chuck Foreman, who they go to so often. About the only quarterback that doesn't is Bob Lee. When he's quarterbacking for some unknown reason, he doesn't throw to Foreman very much. Foreman, an excellent receiver, as you all know. Floyd Rice, a free agent out of, first was with Houston and San Diego in his 7th year. And I wanted to say about the Oakland defense, they're not like their offense at all. That sounds stupid, doesn't it? Well, what I mean by that is they have 4 free agents. They have only 3 draft choices and 4 people they traded for playing on it.
3rd and 5 from the 25-yard line. Complete to Sammy White. Neil Colsey brings him down at the 36-yard line. Tommy Kramer, he's one of 11 children. He has 6 brothers and 4 sisters. His dad was a coach at Texas Lutheran for 6 years. So he has quite a football background.
He was a leading passer, All-American from Rice last year. A lot of people in the draft were interested in him, but nobody thought he'd go in the 1st round. The Vikings said they had their eye on him the whole way.
When they picked Tommy Kramer, it was the first time that the Vikings picked a quarterback in the 1st round. So you know he's got some credentials. 1st and 10 from the 38. Play action fake to McClanahan. And Kramer will keep it to the 40, and down he goes. Dave Rowe brought him down. Big Dave, he's been around.
Yes, sir. New Orleans, he started out there, went to New England, to Houston, to San Diego, and somehow these Mavericks that run around the league, when they get here with the Oakland Raiders, they get a fresh start and a fresh outlook, and they play ball for John Madden.
One thing Tommy Kramer will have to do is see around Dave Rowe. Rowe is 6'7" and 270. He blocks out the sun.
They got a lot of people on that defensive line to do.
If you're a cornerback or even a linebacker now, this is your view as Kramer sets up. 2nd and 7 from the 41. And he's going to be swallowed up. And down he goes by John Matusak, the other fellow who is 6'7".
And the other fellow that's been much traveled. Started out with Houston, Kansas City, and on to Washington. He's a free agent. Somehow they play when they get here under John Madden or Al Davis or the Oakland organization, whatever. Kramer sets up nicely, though. I like his footwork there. too much Matusak. Look at that strength there. One arm on his jersey brings it down.
Boy, those are sizable characters. Matusak and Rose, 6'7" and 270 each. A sizable first quarter for Oakland, that is. The Raiders sitting on top of the crest of a 21-0 lead. I believe that there it is. Oakland 21, Minnesota nothing as we start the second quarter. The Raiders had 19 plays in the first quarter, and the Vikings only 9. And it is 3rd and 18 from the 30. Make it 19 now as they spot the ball. And Kramer, another tough call. Chuck Foreman to the 40, to the 45, and he has just about made the first down. So Kramer knows one thing: in trouble, go to Foreman.
Doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence to know that, though. Chuck Foreman having a great year, as all of them are for him. Just needs 92 yards, not less than that now. Reach that 1,000-mile mark, or 1,000-yard mark, rather.
Must seem like 1,000 miles.
Yes, sir. The balance on him. Just reflexes. Good football instinct.
But he has not done well, as the numbers tell you, against Oakland. So he's trying to change that a little bit. 1st and 10 from the 49. Rushed by Rowe. The Kramer chased by Matusak. Just did get across the 45-yard line. Jack Tatum came up, and he just got by him. Floyd Rice finally making it.
Tommy Kramer's stats so far in the limited time he's played have been overwhelming. 61% completion, 4 touchdowns with only 1 interception. That's really exceptional for a rookie in the situations he's been put in. The first game against Cincinnati, where he showed any time, had it all going his way. But last week, down 24-0 to a very good San Francisco defense, and still responded.
Well, we'll see how he can respond today. He's down 21-0. Kramer looking deep. Now looks to Foreman, but before he can, Dave Rose swallows him up. Rowe, by the way, in the Super Bowl, blocked 2 passes. So at 6'7", he really is a standout along with Matusak. So the Oakland defense, anything but tired. They've only been on the field for about 11 plays thus far. And Dave Rowe, 11 years out of Penn State, already making his pleasant thrown. 3rd and 5 from the 46. Sammy White in a slot left, inside Ahmad Rashad. Foreman in motion right. Quick out to Foreman, and he hit and got away at the last minute. It was Skip Thomas who came up to hit him, and the ball got loose, as you saw.
You see the football instincts of that guy, though. He just feels pressure around and feels when people are around. Watch this. Watch how he tries to avoid the tackler and still keeps fairly good concentration on the football. Didn't see it. He was watching the football, but just knew it was around. The #1 draft choice, and the Vikings have done very well with all their #1 draft choices. That's
so Neil Clabo, 3-year man out of Tennessee, ready to punt for Minnesota. Neil Colsey all alone on his 12. And that's going nowhere but up right now, as it will hit on the 20 and stop at about the 15 and still rolling. So Minnesota again bottled up thanks to some tough punts to handle, and they're down 21-0. 21-0 Oakland, and the Vikings, having just punted to Oakland. There's a score of the Los Angeles Rams. John Cappelletti on a 25-yard run and a 36-yard field goal by Rafael Septien, sitting on top of a 9-0 lead against Atlanta. Biletnikoff wide right and Branch left. Clarence Davis behind Van Egan, but he couldn't go anywhere. Van Egan took his best bolt at Matt Blair, bounced off Blair, and Davis, trying to cut away from the block, just ran right into a pack. Clarence Davis. Boy, he's had some impressive numbers. He came into this game with 718 yards rushing.
Got a career average of 4.8 yards per carry, which is extremely high. Anything over 4 is high.
2nd and 7. And Van Egan just bullying his way across the 20 and carrying people with him. Fred McNeil. Down at the bottom is Jeff Seaman. We'll see number 50, Jeff Seaman, on top of almost every ball carrier.
He's going to have to play well. Up front, I'm afraid to just look at they're moving Page out. That's what most people do when they play against him, because Page, when you run away from him, is very effective. Running at him, well, he's just not that big. Weighs about 225 pounds, which is that's small for a tackle.
Well, there's a drastic change in that one. As you can see, Baltimore just picked up a 35-yard touchdown run from Lydell Mitchell to take a 10-6 lead over Detroit. 3rd and 1, and Rick fumble picked up by Nate Wright to the 20, 15, 10, 5. He goes in for a touchdown.
All right.
Turnabout is fair play.
I'll say, how do you like that when it happens to you?
Nate Wright, 9-year man out of San Diego State, picks up the fumble and runs it in for a touchdown.
Oh, and that can change it around. It was so easy for the Raiders on those first 3 touchdowns. Minnesota, everything happened to them. Now it goes back the other way. Good bounce to field that time. He decided to go ahead and pick it up instead of fall on it. Look at the blocking out in front of him, too. Escorted in.
Bud Grant, you could never tell whether Oakland had just scored or Minnesota.
You just don't know.
We do know, however, that Fred Cox has just kicked it through. And so Minnesota trying to get back in the ball game, but Oakland still leading 21-7. Well, turnover time in the Oakland Coliseum, and Oakland's first turnover cashed into a touchdown for Minnesota. And the Vikings, of course, have coughed the ball up 4 times, so they're behind Oakland 21-7. 11:31 left in the second quarter, and Fred Cox kicking, and it'll be handled by Carl Garrett at the 16. Down he goes. Craig, normally a tight end, making the first hit. And so Oakland takes over on their own 36-yard line.
What started out to be a rout may not be a rout after all, then.
21-7. Fellow like Stabler calling plays. It'll be interesting to see if Minnesota, of course, as we mentioned, for Oakland, they're sky high. A win today, and they've won the wild card. Meanwhile, Minnesota, no matter what they do today, they still have to win next week against Detroit.
45, 38.
Clarence Davis behind Beeler and Van Egan, and McNeil did a marvelous job. Fred McNeil not only strung the play out, but he made the tackle, number 54.
Van Egan kept with him, too, on the play. It was just a great play by Fred McNeil that time. Watch it as you see it this time. Watch number 30, Mark Van Egan blocking on him. He stays on him the whole way, as you see it right there. Alan Page coming into the picture there. Fred McNeil played off his blocker after he'd strung it out and then made the play.
Fine defensive play by Fred McNeil. 2nd and 7 on the 39. Stabler over the middle to Van Egan, and Seaman brings him down. So Jeff Seaman had to come back and pick up Mark Van Egan. So that should be enough for the first down. Say, friends, if you haven't gotten into the holiday spirit, tomorrow should do it. Is that wonderful award-winning Yuletide special, A Charlie Brown Christmas, returns to the scene. Join Peanuts Gang and search for the true meaning of Christmas tomorrow at 8, 7 Central and Mountain. 1st and 10 from the 48. Van Egan. Seaman finally brings him down as he crossed the 45-yard line.
Boy, that offensive line of the Raiders looks sharp. They're really coming off the ball, executing beautifully. Their back's against the wall, and no question about it. They know they have to win both games to get in the playoff, or probably do. And they can control their own destiny and fully intend to.
We were talking about some of the Minnesota players who have consecutive streaks. Art Shell playing in his 139th. Gene Upshaw in his 153rd. Dave Dalby has played in 83 straight. Beeler 111. In other words, they have a lot of old heads up front.
And durable always.
Well, Mark Van Egan finally brought down by Nate Allen, and he picked up the first down.
Watch it from ground level. And that's about the way it looks like to those linebackers and safety men, too. Nate Allen there going in low and holding on. Egan, just a fine runner. He's one of those dependable guys you can count on game in and game out.
Otis Sistron from behind.
Yeah, I believe they got him out of a bar in Star Wars.
Under a rush, course, Eller hit him, and he dropped the ball, but I think he let loose to the leather after the whistle. Eller and Sutherland putting a squeeze on him.
Eller been the most effective pass rusher for the Vikings. That's his 12th sack of the season, I believe.
That's right. He had 15 last year. That would be his 12th, so he hasn't slowed up much at all.
The Snake. Gracious. He's had an interesting career. He's an interesting guy. One of the good old boys. Foley, Alabama.
Jeff Seaman, the middle linebacker, again trying to reach Stabler. We'll see if we'll have a blitz. Second down. Second down and about 20. Second and 20. Clarence Davis following Van Egan. Nowhere to go. And he is chewed up. Alan Page with Matt Blair on top.
The Vikings too proud to quit, huh? Down 21-0 before they could turn around, and coming back now. Alan Page just had some great seasons for the Vikings. Got a lot more in front of him, too. He is quick. One of the few defensive linemen, it seems like to me, that came out of Notre Dame that really from the start was a star and continued.
You know, I just thought of an interesting point about Minnesota. You know, each time they had a rematch with the team that beat them in the Super Bowl, the Vikings won.
Is that right?
Yeah. Third and 25 from the 49-yard line of Oakland. Stabler gets it to Biletnikoff, and he's pushed out by Nate Allen, but he had a ton to go. He still has almost 10 more yards for the first down marker.
And do you know anybody that over 10 years has caught over 40 balls per season? Biletnikoff just doesn't seem to drop anything. Okay, keeps those feet in bounds on this and the total concentration. Had a great career here. Not over yet. It's his 29th catch of the season.
Let's say Biletnikoff is not big, but he's durable. In his 13 years, he's missed only 8 games.
Catches a lot of sideline patterns. That's the reason.
Ray Guy, the talented foot. We'll see what he does. Manfred Moore all alone on the Minnesota 10. And Guy sends it towards the airport. No wonder they thought helium was in that ball.
I've already showed you I can kick it out on the 2. Now I'm going to show you how far I can kick it.
So Oakland 21, Minnesota 7. First and 10 on the Minnesota 20 coming up. Minnesota putting the ball in play, first and 10 from their own 20-yard line. Oakland leading 21-7, and we have 7 minutes and 37 seconds to go to the half. Cleveland has become a very unhappy city ever since the Rams shot out Cleveland 9-0. And to cap it off, Houston knocked them off today 19-15.
And it's a shame, too, because Forrest Gregg had them going up there at the time.
Tommy Kramer has Chuck Foreman is the only setback. Foreman runs into the 2-sack and Rice. For the benefit of you folks who had missed it earlier, New England defeated Miami 14-10, and consequently an Oakland victory today will assure the Raiders of the wild card bid. There he is, Mr. Otis Sistrunk, 6 years out of no college.
No college. The Rams picked him up and they traded for him. And they're glad they did, too. He's done well for them.
Second and 10 from the 20. Well, Foreman just did get to the line of scrimmage. Play action fake. Sammy White make 4:31. So that's history. First and 10 on the Raider 47-yard line. White is wide right, Rashad wide left. Foreman on a good play-action fake, and now Kramer high off the hands of Rashad, picked off by Jack Tatum, and he is knocked down by Brent McClanahan. Another turnover.
Yes, sir, and that one hurt, too. Ahmad Rashad had that ball, or should have had it. Tatum, that's his 4th interception of the season. That's his 20th career interception. Had a great career there already with the Oakland Raiders. Watch this now. Very catchable ball. Wouldn't have been the easiest one in the world. And I think he was influenced by a linebacker that time. Be Monty Johnson over there.
So we have had 6 turnovers now. 4 by Minnesota. This is now their 5th. Oakland has 1 turnover. It is 21-7 Oakland. 6:41 to go in the second quarter. First and 10 from the Oakland 32. Mark Van Egan following Clarence Davis. Fred McNeil on one side of him, Jeff Wright on the other.
Vikings know they have to stiffen on that side to be able to stay in the ball game with this Raider team. They're a powerful team, the Oakland Raiders, and very determined, too.
Mark Van Egan had carried for 54 yards. He has now handled the ball 14 times as Bud Grant tries to figure out how to stop him. So Van Egan, with 56 yards rushing, is now the best rusher in Oakland history as he's gone well over the 1,100 mark. 2nd and 7, and Stabler setting up. He's got Cliff Branch. And Klaus finally gets him. So Cliff Branch gets the ball inside the 45 to the 42-yard line. 1st and 10, Oakland.
It's a great example. Watch how he waits for him to clear Matt Blair there. You see number 59, he waited. He had time to do it. And that's what Kenny Stabler has been afforded throughout his years of playing with the Oakland Raiders. He's had time to sit back there, and when you do, he'll kill you. There's no question about it.
Well, he picked up 23 yards in one gulp to move the ball to the Minnesota 42-yard line as John Madden, watching his ball club, trying to recapture the opening edge. They're leading 21-7. And there goes Banasak as he gets across the 40-yard line. Pete Banasak, who scored 2 touchdowns against Minnesota in Super Bowl 11.
Well, they call on him in short yardage situations, and you know he's going to carry the ball, and nobody seems to stop him.
Well, the Minnesota defense has spent most of the first quarter and half of the second out on the field, and we see that Studwell is now in there. When you look at Minnesota, you realize that they have 4 first-round draft choices as defensive linemen.
They know where the game is played, don't they?
2nd and 5, and there goes Carl Garrett to the 35-yard line. Carl Garrett out of New Mexico Highlands. Against the Super Bowl team Minnesota, he had almost a 5-yard average. Well, there it is. Tampa Bay finally wins one convincingly over New Orleans 33-14.
And finally it came down, and poor old Hank Stram.
Eller almost took his head off. Carl Eller sacking Stabler for the 2nd time. So the big guy now has 13 sacks this year.
Go look at it again. You can get to Stabler. When you do get to him, he's going to go down like all the other quarterbacks. You know, I often think about that. He came within one team of being drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. They were going to pick him, and Oakland had to pick right in front of them and chose Stabler. And how different his story could have been had they, with the poor organization they've had in the past, been when he wouldn't have been afforded protection.
Cue that song in The Man Who Got Away. Oh, we'll see about the football getting away. Ray Guy kicking to Manfred Moore at the 15, and this is belted, and it is Barnes. He almost knocked him right through the barn. Jeff Barnes, a rookie out of the University of California. He's one of 8 children, so he knows about in a crowd. Did he ever slug him? So a 30-yard punt, 0 return. Ray Guy. And Detroit came back to trip Baltimore. They led 6-3. Baltimore led 10-6, and Detroit has pulled it out 13-10 over Baltimore.
Well, I guess the race is still on in that division. Huh?
Big day for New England. 1st and 10 from the 15. Chuck Foreman. Nowhere. By the way, to all you folks who have been watching Detroit's victory over Baltimore and a rather historic Tampa Bay victory over New Orleans, pull up a chair. We've got one going here at the Coliseum. Oakland 21, Minnesota 7. 3 minutes and 12 seconds to go in the half. Oakland looked like they were going to blow Minnesota out of the ballpark in the first quarter when they led 21-0. Minnesota trying to recover with young Tommy Kramer at the wheel. He got rid of it. A great pass to Ahmad Rashad. Pat Toomey was right on his back, and he just did get it away, and then Monty Johnson hit him.
Pat Toomey comes in on passing situations to relieve Otis Sistrunk. He comes in fresh, and he puts a rush on. Look at the reflexes on this boy, Tommy Kramer. feels pressure coming, and look how quickly he gets it off. Sees there's no running room as you see Toomey come into the picture, and look how quickly he got it off. I like him.
By the way, as you see Rashad being tackled, Floyd Rice, who recovered a fumble earlier, Floyd shaken up on that last play, and he's down.
And that's something the Raiders don't need a whole lot more of. They've had their share of precious plenty of injuries this season.
A reminder, the CBS Sports Spectacular. Coming up next Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll see highlights of the WC World Welterweight Championship fight between Carlos Palomino and Jose Palacios. Then we will have the National Hot Rod Association World Championships with Shirley Muldowney and Don Garlis competing in their top fuel dragsters, along with Don Prudhomme racing in the funny car category. Plus the finals of the United States Professional Arm Wrestling Championship. And competing, well, you have folks with such professions as a rock star manager, a former boxing champion sparring partner, and a 250-pound waitress, just to name a few. And the final event of the World's Strongest Men competition featuring the tug of war. All coming up next Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on the CBS Sports Spectacular.
Did you say a 250-pound waitress?
Yeah. Known to pick up a tab. First and 10. What was that great line from the Bridges of Tokori? Where do we get those people? Well, there's Pat Toomey, who put the heat on.
He's been around and about too, brother.
Jeff Barnes is in for Floyd Rice, and we'll see if Toomey can get off the mark. Kramer has a first and 10 from his 27. Sammy White in motion to the left. Throws it out to White. They set up a screen, but there's no screen. Pat Toomey finally knocked him down. The only man over there to block for Sammy White was Steve Riley, number 78, and there were just too many Oakland Raiders.
You got it. They read it perfectly that time. Just watch it out here. There's nobody. Blocking trying to form out there, but the Raiders read it. They're a well-coached team, no question about it.
So we have exactly 2 minutes left to go to the half. The Oakland Raiders 21, the Minnesota Vikings 7. Well, with 2 minutes left to go to the half, the Oakland Raiders leading Minnesota 21-7. The Vikings trying to get it in gear. Will have it second and 10 on their own 27-yard line. So Tommy Kramer calling his own plays, although I believe the touchdown pass to Sammy White that won it last week was called by Jerry Burns. Boyd, the tight end on the left side. White to the left and Bob Grimm to the right. Kramer to Robert Miller, and he's at the 40. Flag on the play as he crosses the 45. And Kramer lost his number, at least on the back that time.
Boy, he is getting some pressure over there from Matusak. If you'll watch it right here. John Matusak, number 72, coming into the picture here. This boy can move, and there's no such thing as a quarterback playing in this game today that can't move, because they're not going to last very long, I don't believe. Throws well on the run. Robert Miller, you haven't heard a lot of.
First and 10 from the 47, and Kramer looking and dumping, gets his tight end. Boyd is bumped out of bounds by Skip Thomas. And that should be enough for the first down, and it stops the clock with 1:21.
You think that mobile quarterback won't make the difference, though, rather than the sack getting off the completions for, what, 30 yards now?
He had one high pass that got off the hands of Ahmad Rashad that stopped his last drive. But I think Bud Grant is probably getting some very important answers as to Tommy Kramer and the prospect of that game against Detroit. Remember, Detroit almost upset Baltimore today before Baltimore pulled it out. First and 10 from the Oakland 42, and Minnesota trying to get back in the ball game. White inside Grimm and a slot right. Kramer gets it to Robert Miller, and he gets a first down as he gets out at the 30-yard line.
Ooh, I like the arm on that boy and the reflexes he's got. He could have either taken the loss there, as you'll see right here, or get rid of it, and how he did in a hurry. Talk about quick release. Watch this. No use throwing it. Look at this. And right on target, too. Not a long pass, not a difficult pass, but presence of mind to throw it like that.
Robert Miller had caught 24 passes going into the ball game. So he's caught a couple of big ones to keep the drive alive. It's on the Oakland 29-yard line, 1st and 10. White is right, Grimm left. Kramer got Foreman inside the 25. So Chuck Foreman needed about 2 more yards at least to get a first down. We have 1 minute and 4 seconds left to go to the half as Monty Johnson and Ted Hendrick came in to make the stop.
Once again, the scrambling and the improvising of Tommy Kramer. He doesn't look like any rookie I've ever seen, I don't believe. Not the greatest footwork in the world, but he got the ball to him. And when you got a guy like Chuck Foreman, what do you want to do? Just get the ball to him any way you can. He's going to make something happen himself. Ted Hendrick's coming in there. The story.
Chuck almost got out of the grasp of Monty Johnson. So the great Chuck Foreman has rushed for 39 yards. And Foreman figures to be very busy. He has caught 2 for 7 yards today. And there is one of the many stories. Tommy Kramer came off the bench down by 3 touchdowns, pulled it out against San Francisco, started a game and saw his Vikings down 21-0. And he has them very much back in the ball game, and especially if he can get them on the scoreboard now before the half runs out.
And you've got to know, you can't tell it by his look, but you've got to know that the entire coaching staff is pleased with the performance they've seen so far. Outside of those early fumbles and misexchanges with ball carries, and that's Don Shinnick, of course, defensive coach with the Oakland Raiders. Man's about half nuts. Used to be my roommate in Baltimore.
2nd and 4 from the 23-yard line of Oakland. So Kramer trying to keep it alive. White in a slot right inside Bob Grimm. Miller and Foreman, the running back. Kramer got away as he throws in the end zone. No good. Broken up by Willie Brown. Intended for Sammy White.
How much you can say about Willie Brown? He's been around forever. 15 years of playing. Holder of several records for the Oakland Raiders. He's intercepted.
There's a reminder at halftime. Brent, Phyllis, and Irv with scores and highlights from around the league as we start to get a definitive picture of the upcoming playoffs and eventual Super Bowl. So stay right with us. Sammy White threw a shoe going into the end zone. Probably one of the wings fell off. So he has to go up and get a new one. Give me one with 2 wings. 3rd and 4 from the 23. Now you have Tucker in a slot right inside Grimm. Broken up, a one-handed slap at the last minute to bring it down by Lester Hayes. And we ought to took him. Number 37, Lester Hayes, is the rookie who took the heat last week. Watch him knock it down. He was the boy beaten by Harold Jackson.
Made up for it there. Kramer tried to force that one in there, as you saw. No reason for him to throw the ball in there. But then he is a rookie after all said and done.
53 seconds to go to the half. It is 4th and 4 for Tommy Kramer's club. He has Sammy White right, Bob Grimm left. He's going to throw it, and it is just off the fingertips of Sammy White. Look at the delight on Lester Hayes as he comes off. He's a player.
You got me last week, but you haven't got me yet today.
Youngster out of Texas A&M. Take another look.
Tommy Kramer's got an extremely strong arm. Question his choice in where he wants to throw the ball, though. He's trying to make something too much happen too quickly. He's trying to force the ball in there. Do not... Oh, of course, last week, those of you who saw the Ram game, you saw Harold Jackson in the waning moments of the game beat Lester Hayes deep with the only ball he caught all day. That'll happen to rookies, particularly against a guy like Harold Jackson.
So now Kenny Stabler gives it to Mark Van Egan, and he gets out across the 25-yard line. He was following Gene Upshaw's block. You'll see the time ticking down. It is 21-7 Oakland as we're coming up to halftime. A very, very gray, dismal day in Oakland. A definite threat of rain. In fact, it was raining just 20 miles away when the game started. 2nd and 5 from the 28. Van Egan again behind Upshaw. got it out across the 30-yard line. So Kenny will let the clock run down. So Kramer had 2 shots and couldn't do it. One on the interception, and the other as he could not get the ball to Sammy White. So Oakland goes into the clubhouse leading 21-7 at halftime. It'll be interesting to see the adjustments and just what Bud Grant does. He tries to come from behind in the second half. So that's the picture at halftime.